Hi, everybody. It's Lisa, your podcast sister. We're doing something a little bit different today. I wanted you to get a glimpse of what it's like to be the host of Podcast Sista, behind the scenes, and my producer, Josh Trokey, that has helped me to grow as a podcast host because it's really pretty difficult at times. So we're going to talk, have a conversation, be candid and open, and welcome, Josh. Really appreciate you.
Thanks. When you sent me the message to come on today, I was like, oh boy, how am I going to manage this? But you do it all the time and you do a good job. So I figure, okay, if you can do it, I at least have to give it a shot because I sit there back behind the desk, way back there, and scream orders at you all the time. And this will be good because you've got an interesting background, and I think a lot of your listeners would find this very interesting. First off, the podcast, the logo back here, the guitar, everything like this. How was this born? I mean, where did this idea come from? Like, hey, I'm going to interview country music people and just talk to them.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved music. And about a year and a half ago, Podcast Sista was Podcast Sistas with an S.
Okay.
My neighbor and her sister and I started Podcast Sista just for some fun. And I purchased some equipment and we did an audio only podcast about musicians. And since I have a public relations background, I was able to reach out to publicists in Nashville particularly and land some guests. However, my neighbor and her sister,
however,
decided that, they wanted to go a different direction, and not be involved in becoming a podcaster.
Sure.
And I said, well, you know what? I want to stick to it. I know I can do this. It's challenging and I love a challenge and I love to learn. Josh, I'm a lifelong learner. I truly am. And, you have helped me tremendously learn more about myself.
Good.
And the logo that you asked about, I designed it. I wanted to try and capture not only the name change, which was Podcast Sista, and wanted to capture that music element, and the guitar just seemed to be a natural. And I think too, Josh, we're in Cleveland. We
Yes.
are home of rock and roll.
Yes.
And I always am very proud, especially in my introduction of the podcast, to say I'm from Cleveland.
Sure.
And
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. We are when you look at like all the arts and everything that Cleveland has here, Cleveland has the second largest theater district, only behind New York. In terms of so when you talk about arts and performance, Cleveland's got it.
Yeah.
We are a phenomenal area for that. That being said, you mentioned your PR background here. And we're not going to talk about time. We're not going to say how long you did this for.
I don't mind it.
So, PR, that means a lot of things to a lot of people. What was it that you did that kind of gave you this? You've got a leg up on a lot of people in terms of the guests that you get and the people that you're able to talk to, which is awesome. Your background, your network alluded to that. How'd you get that?
Well, it took a long time. First off, I have to say, going to college to prepare myself for a lifelong career and public relations was the first step. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Cleveland State University. And that internship, for anyone listening who's in college and wants to dive into any profession, that internship primarily at the end of your senior year is so important. And I was very fortunate to be, embraced by a local nonprofit agency, and their PR person taught me so many things about, the who, what, where, when, how, and why about an event and promoting it. That's your basic. And, when you're writing those news releases, when you're talking to somebody, whether it is to pitch a story to a reporter, trying to encapsulate all that information in a very quick format, whether it's over the phone or in an email. And, with a lot of practice, I was able to accomplish that, and worked primarily for the past 30 years, pitching ideas to reporters, coming up with, finding clients, particularly positive clients that, wanted to get the word out about their skills and talents and projects, particularly in the business world. And I love to be positive about who I'm representing in the media, because the media is a very powerful tool.
Sure. Yeah, no, it very much is. PR, whenever I think of PR stuff, it's very much about getting the story out there. You largely talk with country artists, and country seems to have the best stories. Rock is always kind of about random stuff. Or it's just lost love, whatever. Country always seems to have some of the best stories. And I think you'll agree with me on that one when you hear some of the stories and some of the stories behind the music. That being said, what is probably the most surprising story that you've gotten during one of your podcasts where someone's just told you something where you're like, wait, what? That's where that came from? Or what's a surprising story that you have? Or I guess I would say surprising story or surprising moment.
Well, one of my favorite artists that I interviewed, Cassandra Carson, and she is a heavy metal artist. And I was surprised when I interviewed her that her career started with her father forming a band, and she was included in that band. And when I interviewed her, I said, Cassandra, your life reads like a storybook tale of becoming this singer. Your father teaches you the background and the way to perform, and she learned the guitar, etc. And today, they are one of the top bands in heavy metal, and she is growing. She collaborates with many, many big artists. So I think of her, of a story that, wow, you started a band with your father. That's pretty.
That's very cool.
It is. Country music wise, I think that when I interviewed William Lee Golden, who is one of the members of the Oak Ridge Boys, he's the one with the beard.
Yes.
I was so surprised at the song Elvira. And I love that song. I remember it when it came out. I think it was in the 80s. Never had a video, Josh.
It never did.
And they just released it. Oh, I think it was maybe a year ago. And when I watched the video, it's tremendous. They have, cameo appearances with different country music artists in it. They have William Lee Golden, and I said this was his moment, when he walks off the tour bus, and he's a big man, and he's, dressed just in that country way and showstopper way. And all this was captured in a video, and I encourage everyone to look at Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys, and I know you will not regret it, because
I will
it's great.
have to check that, because I still remember, this is dating me a little bit. Me and a friend of mine on the school bus, many, many years ago, but on the school bus singing that song.
Yeah.
And as young boys trying to sing the low part, it just would not happen.
Yeah.
It just
It's
would
a great
not happen
song.
at all.
And I
Yeah.
played it for my grandsons, and they're 5 and 7. And, even though the song is, kind of dated in different ways,
sure.
they loved it. There's so many.
The harmony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a happy, positive
very much so.
song. And it's going to last the test of time. I'm
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. That's a great story with that. When you're looking for your musical guests, there's obviously the musical piece to it. What's another piece that you're looking at, though, when you say, like, hey, I want to talk to that person?
Well, I want to give the independent artist a platform to showcase their music. And because, Josh, independent artists, they work so hard.
Yeah.
It could be years before they're actually booking shows, developing, relationships with publicists, things like that. And I want to give them the platform because their music is fantastic. It is heartfelt. There's a huge variety. Their background stories are terrific. A lot of the artists, have full-time jobs, but, manage to juggle being that musician on the weekends. I have just recently interviewed a few independent artists that are from different countries.
Those have been very cool.
Yeah. Yuka is from Finland, goes to Nashville, records, goes back to Finland. Brooke Ellingworth, who I interviewed, he is from the UK, goes to Nashville, goes back and forth. The time, the money, the, the energy, and the connections they have to make, and all those things. I admire each and every one. And that is the kind of artist that I like to interview. But I'm really open to any artist. So please, if you know, reach out.
So that brings me to another question here with this. So, has doing the podcast changed how you view or how you appreciate music?
Yeah, I think it does. But I got to tell you, last summer I worked at a Maine outdoor venue here in the Cleveland area.
The big local one that's I know the
has
shape.
all the hits, big
Yeah.
artists. So I had a chance to work all summer and be there from sound check when the artists, roll in and semi trucks roll in and they're taking their equipment off their trucks and there's the tour bus and, from that point to when the audience starts rolling in and many come so early. They're so excited and, they want to party. And when the opening act comes on, the audience is revving up. And by the time the main act comes on, the atmosphere just is intense. So I want to say that also kind of made me even appreciate more what all is involved in, being a musician on the road, especially. And I also want to say one last thing. This summer, a lot of old time rock and rollers came to this very famous outdoor venue, and the old time rock and rollers, they know how to work that audience.
Yes.
And it's amazing. You hear that saying, oh, the artist has the audience in the palm of their hand. I actually understand that now. When they come out, they know what the audience wants to hear. They're ready to party. They hit it, and they just can work it, their magic, and it makes for a great show, whether there's fancy lighting or not. It's how that artist can manage the audience.
Sure. I see it all the time because I've seen people that I know that are phenomenal musicians, phenomenal songwriters, and they get in front of a crowd and they're maybe a little bit flat. And then you see other bands where the music isn't it isn't the top tier of music, and it's not but boy, can they get a crowd going. And it's that live charisma that some people have.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's just amazing. It truly is. That being said, if an aspiring musician's watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, either one, what's something that you hope that they get from the podcast?
I want them to see Podcast Sista as a way to promote and get the word out about their music, their tours, their new releases, their debut album. I welcome guests as part of bringing to my listeners entertainment. And my listeners really do check out what the artists on my show are talking about. And one of the things that makes me different, I think, is that not only do I interview the artist, but I play 2 song snippets throughout this 20, 30-minute interview. Because it's one thing, Josh, to talk about music and talk about it, you know, where they were inspired and things like that. But you want to play a snippet and give the audience that taste of what is yet to come. And it's been very successful, and I encourage anyone interested in being on the show to reach out, use this as a stepping stone to, you know, promote who you are and what you're doing.
I was about to say, there's 2 things that you stayed in there that I absolutely love. Is first off, this is 100% apparent. You do this for the artists. You're not doing this for you. You're doing this for the artists. And I absolutely love that. And it's awesome to see what you do with that. The second piece is you always do find really good songs for us to put in there. We're just editing them in. You're like, hey, here's the section I want you to use. And and we're like, great. And we put those in there. We're like, wow, these are pretty good. Like between me and my editor, we usually even end up going out and like, hey, we need to check this out when we're not working. You find some good spots with that. Where do you want the podcast to go? I'm curious about that.
Well, I really want it to continue to grow. I want to be able to gain more and more guests from various genres. It doesn't necessarily have to be country.
Sure.
It could be rap. It could be rock and roll. It could be jazz. It could be any type of music I am open to, because every artist has a story behind their music. So I want to continue to grow. You have helped me because for the last year on my own, I have been doing audio only. So now I am in front of the camera. It's very difficult at times. And, you know, I'm working at it. It's, you know, something that takes practice, and I'm willing to put the work in, and my listeners are growing, and they're seeing me grow as well with your help. So I think I'm on track. I'm doing what I want to do. Eventually, of course, I would like to get sponsors, and, you know, that will happen, you know, in time. And, I think it was once said that, you know, you've got to, you know, to have that good cornerstone to start building, you know, what it is, and don't be in a hurry. And I'm not, and I'm enjoying the ride.
Good. It's funny because working with you, seeing that you have made big steps, and it's awesome to see. For us, like in my business, we say success is a shared thing. If you're successful, then we'll be successful. There's no 2 ways about that. And to me, that's what makes this such a good relationship. And that, to me, I also feel like when I'm screaming at you from behind the desk to
I
do
love it.
something different, you realize that I'm doing that. It's out of love. It's not. It's not out of like oh, she's doing that thing again.
Yeah, no.
This is that's one of the things that I truly love about it. Is there anything that we didn't cover?
Well, you never scream at me. You don't.
I hint.
Yes, you do. And I'm so fortunate to be working with you. You're very experienced in what you do. You've got your company, Pedal Stomper Productions, as well. And I'm very blessed to have you mentor me as well as produce Podcast Sista.
We're having a lot of fun with it.
We sure are. So there's only one thing I could say, which I always say at the end of my podcast. That's a wrap.
I love it.